Hey there YouTube, welcome back to a black powder update. My figures arrived and I started them now. They actually arrived, I think it was last Tuesday. And it obviously took a couple of days to get them started because I always, I stick them to bases and then I prime them. And then I generally leave them to the next day to start, so I didn't even start these guys until Wednesday. And then, of course, with the light, with it starting to get dark at sort of 3 o'clock-ish, I'm losing probably an hour and a half to 2 hours of light that I'd normally be painting to. So, of course, that building up over sort of 6 or 7 days adds up to a couple of painting sessions. So I suppose you could say, because I started these guys last Wednesday, that I, theoretically finished them on time. But I think I could have finished these guys on Saturday if it didn't get dark so quick. So theoretically, on paper I'm still on schedule, but they are, because of the loss of light, seem to be taking a lot longer to do. So without further ado, let's get into the details on these boys and zoom in a little bit. So there we go. Now these chaps are the 3rd Dutch Militia. They number 592 men, and they are commanded by a Lieutenant Colonel F.E. Baron von Lauwik von Vaart. Quite a mouthful. Now, when I put this name into my translator, the English sounding version of this name was ridiculous, so I tried to stick to the Dutch version of saying it, which is I didn't think it's not. I wasn't too far off. I might have been a little bit off. Anyway, so these guys are front rank. I did actually, when I ordered my sort of like the 2 battalions that I ordered now, probably 3, possibly even 4 weeks ago now. I was going to originally put an order in with Perry's, but then the postage came up as like 12 quid, and that's ridiculous. It's like, well, no way. I'm not going to spend 12 quid on postage when I'm spending, 75 pounds on figures. Or in fact, actually, it was closer to 80. So in the end, I ended up ordering the 2 battalions from front rank. Unfortunately, their postage has also gone up, but it was £7.50 as opposed to £10 something, which I thought was pretty ridiculous, really. However, eventually I'm going to have to order some stuff from Perry's because I can't have all front rank for the rest of the 2 battalions. So I'm kind of at some point I'm going to have to make a Perry's order. So without further ado, let's go in and give you a closer look at these guys. So, like I said, these guys are front rank, and unfortunately, along with front rank comes duplicate figures again. There's not much you can really do about it, but I mean, luckily, front rank figures are so good that it doesn't really make too much difference. So if we can sort the light out here to get you a good look at them. That's pretty good. So here we have the flanker battalion, or one of the flanker companies rather, of the militia. Now these guys aren't designated as grenadiers or light infantry, but these guys tended to be the sort of veterans of the troops that fought before, so therefore they're generally the cream of the crop of militia battalions. I've sort of been doing a lot of research into militia battalions lately because of my Eagle miniatures idea of basically making a battalion out of all sort of 16, 17-year-olds to account for their sort of smaller size, and it's basically that they recruited from 16 to 50, I believe. With about possibly, I think it was like maybe 20% of them being sort of 16 to 20. So having a battalion made up of a lot of those sort of smaller troops although obviously it'd look a little odd. I mean, theoretically you should have a mixture of different sizes, but obviously they are within the sort of range of my idea of basically a whole sort of graduating class from a sort of private school all join the same militia battalion, and you know, so theoretically perhaps that particular battalion has more younger guys than average, and therefore that's why it would get its higher regiment number. But these guys, of course, are the 3rd, and yeah, as you can see, they're more exactly the same sort of figure as Dutch line, and of course the Belgian line, etc., etc. Obviously, these guys have a slightly different uniform, and that's obviously taken into account, with the militia having the stovepipe style shako, and the sort of different style turnbacks in the orange. So that is the first company of flankers. Next up we have the 4th company. Again, exactly the same style with front rank, so we have these guys with bayonets. Now I did note that because they're militia, they have the sort of old style French khaki style greatcoats in a greater supply than the rest of the sort of standard troops that tend to get given the sort of British grey long coat. So what I did this time round was I gave my flankers the grey jackets, and all of the normal troops have got the khaki, again just for a little bit of a difference really. But yeah, these guys, I mean, these guys, you know, you can moan and groan about them being exactly the same figure, but you know, at the end of the day, they are great figures to paint. They, you know, because they're slightly more chunky, they're easier to get into doing the strapping and stuff. They're a nice surface to paint on, and apart from that, I definitely think the metal's changed on these guys from what the old front rank used to use. I had a lot of trouble. I always bend the muskets back to get them away from their heads, so I can get into the sides of the faces. And I've definitely been noticing that a lot more of them are very brittle, and tend to either, you know, start cracking or in some cases, I think I had like 2 just snap off when I was re-straightening them. And I'm not doing it hard-handedly, I'm doing it very softly. There's definitely it's definitely a brittler metal, so perhaps it's like less lead in it, because I think lead adds this sort of rubberiness to the metal. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, they're still beautiful figures. You can't deny that. Although again, these guys did have some, you know, a fair bit of flash and a little bit of mismoulding. Again, although not as bad as the Dutch line. So here we have the 2nd company of flankers. Obviously exactly the same. Now front rank do like to give their flankers sabre briquets. I believe Perrys don't. They don't actually have a flanker figure actually for the militia, and there is actually a slightly alternate uniform for flankers where they basically don't have those puffs. They just have their pauldrons being all orange. But in this case, obviously, front rank do the proper flanker figures, which is quite cool, I suppose. So that is the 2nd flanker company. Next up, we'll go the opposite way around again this time. So we'll go for the musician next. Now these guys, like I said from my original video, the drum design which is shown on the St. John site is actually incorrect for the Dutch militia. It should be this colour that's shown here, or alternatively on the front cover of the Osprey book. Let me just, so this is the Osprey Wellington's Dutch Allies book, and there is the correct drum design for militia. You can see this is a downed militiaman, So what I did was, like I said, I have mentioned it before, that my first, the second Netherlands had the original design that was on the St John's site, the incorrect design, and these chaps are getting the correct design in this particular battalion, because there's actually quite a few Dutch Militia battalions. So that is the musician stand. Next up we'll go for the NCO. So this is my NCO stand this time. Now obviously Dutch sergeants tended to look more or less the same as a normal trooper. They didn't carry the sashes or the swords like the British NCOs. So they basically looked exactly the same, apart from the fact that they had their NCO stripe. Now of course, now that I'm kind of used to it now, the slightly odd way of the Dutch ranking system, which is based on the French but not the same as the French, which is what confused me. We have the white stripe of a sergeant, where if he was a lance corporal, it would be a yellow stripe, and of course a corporal would be 2 stripes, and a higher ranked NCO would be 2 white stripes, or a higher ranking sergeant. So he has the sergeant stripe, he has the white gloves. I always give my sergeants, and other than that, he is more or less the same as a normal trooper. So that is the NCO stand. And finally the command stand. Now this particular NCO here, or officer rather, is a front rank. Now when I got him out of my box to use, I thought he was a militia officer, but it wasn't until I literally was about to start painting him that I noticed that he had the wrong plume to be a militia officer. So I thought, wait a second, what's going on here? So I had a closer look at him, and he ended up actually being a Nassau colonel. So I had to do a little bit of a cosmetics job on him and swap his plume around, and do a little bit of cosmetic work on his badge, which I got to admit kind of looks like a militia badge. It's not quite as pronounced as a proper figure, but I'm pretty happy with how it turned out, and it's a slightly different officer, slightly different mounted officer that can be used. So I'm pretty chuffed I used him in the end. I was going to sort of swap him around. I have actually ordered in some more command figures from elite mounted colonels, because I do like the idea of as many battalions as possible having mounted troops or mounted commanders. Then we have the banner bearer. Now this guy is donning the alternate militia flag, the one with the wreath around the outside. If you remember back, my original militia units from my second Netherlands didn't have the wreath going around the outside, and I think it looks pretty damn cool, to tell the truth. So this is the battalion that has six battalions of militia. So I thought it'd be nice to have the alternate flag for these guys. Now, secondary officer. Now this is a little bit of a sort of fantasy Easter egg figure. It's actually a British female officer who has been converted into a Dutch militia officer. Now, if you look carefully at her jacket, you can see that she has the British style buttons. However, what I did was, because I'm sort of saying that she had a British style jacket, and because she's because she's female, she made her jacket a little bit more fashionable than regulations allow. And running out of time to go into battle, her commanding officer said, well, make sure those buttons are mute, and the ones down the middle are remain silver. So that's basically what she did. Basically the side buttons now are sort of covered with blue felt to make them disappear into the uniform, and only the silver ones down the middle are actually showing to make it regulation. So a little bit of a made-up fantasy story there. But I've been waiting to use this figure for ages. I really do think it's a cool figure. You can see that she's got her ponytail and a little tiny orange ribbon around her hair. Yeah, she's a little bit of another sort of female officer Easter egg snuck into my Napoleonics. And of course I think I've got 4 female officers, all secondary, hidden within my British and my French. There's a couple hidden in 3rd Corps, and there's a good, with her it'll be 3 hidden in the 1st Allied Corps. So yeah, that is the command. Very happy with it. I think that's a great figure. Again, it's the bonus of using her is an alternate positioned officer that you can't get anywhere else. And I did actually cut the Shako off and replace her Shako, because it was like a covered British Belgic style Shako. So I replaced it with an officer's style militia Shako from a spare standard bearer. So yeah, that's the command figure, or the command stand, and that is the end. That is the battalion. So I was pretty chuffed with how these guys turned out. It was a little bit of a difference from doing the Dutch line. Obviously, I've done sort of Dutch line of sort of, you know, a fair bit over the last couple of months. So it was a nice break to actually do a slightly different unit, even though the colours are almost the same. Now, for the rest of this battalion, I actually have the figures in. So I have the Dutch line infantry unit battalion that's due, and we also have another unit of militia. Now these guys are a made-up unit of elite. So basically, I was left with a whole heap of elite miniatures. I had a sort of a, you know, made up from Perry's and front rank sort of a command group made up for them. And I actually ordered separately from elite. Normally, when I get order from elite, I order battalion packs. However, this time around, I ordered a bunch of single packs to make up the remaining figures. So very cheaply, I made up another battalion for this particular militia unit. So I think all I'm waiting for, I think even the artillery I've got all together now. So this particular brigade has a foot artillery unit. I already have the guns, and I also ordered the alternate Dutch foot artillery from elite as well. So I got a pack of normal and a pack of including an officer. So I've got my 2 crews, and like I say, I've got the whole rest of the brigade ready to go. So there shouldn't be any more hold-ups, hopefully. So yeah, that's the end. Hope you enjoyed it. It was nice to get back to Napoleon X. I know it's I sort of enjoyed doing something different, but at the same time, I really don't like sort of stopping doing my mid project. I really don't like sort of doing side projects. I know in the past sometimes I have to do something as a side project, but generally those things only take up a few days and not an entire week, like my Victory at Sea stuff did. So it was nice to get back to these guys, and because of that, the lateness of me starting and the extras, losing a couple of painting sessions and the like, I'm sort of back to that, giving me those extra few days. So hopefully, if things go to plan, I'll start my next battalion tomorrow. I'll have them all ready to go, and I probably would have already started painting them by Friday. And then now Saturday is actually my birthday, but I don't, unfortunately, with me living on my own, I generally don't do much for my birthdays. It's basically just like any other day. So I'll probably end up just doing painting on Saturday too. And of course, hopefully, I'll finish these guys sort of midweek next week, and they'll be ready for the weekend again. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed it. Big thank you to everyone who watches the videos, and big thank you to a couple of more subscribers. I think I'm getting close to 560 now. You know, I'm hopeful that maybe by next year I might be able to beat my friend, which is my big YouTube goal, to beat my friend's BlueTube channel. I think he's on 665 or something like that. So I'm not too far off him. You know, talking about you know, maybe sort of just over 100 really. It's yeah, it's something I never thought I'd get anywhere near, to tell the truth. So a big thank you. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you all in the next one, which will most likely be perhaps probably Dutch Lion, I'd have thought. So until then, catch you all next time. Bye bye.